Welcome to the Maker's Playbook, the podcast where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, Rebecca Ikes Kara. This week, I virtually sit down with Rachel Russell of Upper Call. But before we dig in, a little peek behind the curtains of how this podcast is made. You see, every time I record these conversations, myself and our guests jump on a Zoom call, and a handy program called Descript records only the audio of that call. This way, guests can see my nonverbal feedback without my interrupting them with a lot of and yep, like we all normally do in regular conversation, which would really ruin your listening experience. I say this because this all works super great as long as the internet connection is wonderfully powerful and does not drop. The key phrase here being does not drop. You probably see where I'm going here. As Rachel and I started our conversation, just after she had done a lovely introduction of herself, my internet decided to leave the party. So this week's episode, I'm going to give you the intro that got missed, and then we'll dive right in, sort of mid-conversation. It's not ideal, I know, but I'm a one-woman shop over on this side of the microphone, trying to get this podcast up for our maker community amidst running my photography studio and starting a ceramics business. So sometimes something's just gotta give, doesn't it? So, Rachel Russell is a small business owner in North Florida, specifically Jacksonville. She makes and sells ceramics that she hopes exude a lot of joy with their bright colors and happy motifs. She primarily focuses on mugs, as she found people like to collect mugs and aren't worried about always having sets, the way you would think of something like bowls. Rachel originally studied to become a speech pathologist, but in taking a break after undergrad, realized pottery was something she was always turning to as a stress relief. In allowing herself to take a break, well, sort of, she was still working multiple part-time jobs at this point, she moved back home and spent some time reflecting on what she wanted to do as a career. And at that point, she decided to give ceramics a really serious go.
Yay!
So when did it shift? Because what I really love is as soon as I asked you to introduce yourself, you started with, I am a business owner. And I think that is something super unique in the arts world, especially because there's so many people who it's like, well, I like to do this and I'm trying to see where it goes. Or it's a hobby that, I've said this before, but I almost feel like sometimes using the word business is a dirty word in the arts world, like marketing. It doesn't have to be slimy. If you do it authentically and soulfully and morally, it's not a bad thing. Like, we all have to make a living.
Yeah, right. Totally. So yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the word because I think it's a mindset shift too. As much as I would love to say, oh yeah, like all I do is make and sell my pottery. There's so much more than that. That's only 25% of what I feel like I do. And the other 75 is all the other stuff, all the other hats, like the marketing, the financial planning, the putting in my sales and quarterly taxes, all of that stuff. I feel like I do a lot more. So that's why I kind of led with I'm a business owner. And also it's super empowering to say it for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I run my own business. And I feel like not only is it more empowering, but it's just more encouraging. And oh yeah, I'm doing this. Not just like, oh yeah, I make and sell, mugs. Cause I feel like if you say that to like your average Joe, they're like, okay,
right.
All right. But I feel like the whole, business ownership is just really cool. And it's something not a lot of people can, confidently say.
And I love that you pointed out that in saying that, it recognizes how much of your time is, what the division of your time actually looks like.
Right.
And this happens for, I think, every single medium on the planet. You realize you love a certain craft, and so you think, okay, I'm going to open a business making pots, or I'm going to open a business taking photos, or I'm going to open a business writing music, and that means I get to do that 90% of the time. And the cruel trick is like, well, nope.
Sadly, it's not like that. Sure, if you want to pay people to help do those things for you, but if you're bootstrapping your business, like what I did, and I didn't take out loans. Mm-hmm. All of it was just reinvesting in my business. And I'm happy to learn all these skills. That's awesome to have this all in my belt. of like tricks, but it's also, I could pay somebody and then I would have much more time just to make art, which is awesome too. And people do that as well. And we're all trying to make a living here.
Recommendation is the first thing you outsource is your taxes.
Oh my gosh, yes. My taxes from that I'm going to report in April are crazy. I was working like some jobs, and then that's also when I transitioned into full-time last year. So I don't even want to look at that. Like, if you know anybody.
The fact that you even are already aware of quarterly payments as opposed to just having it all hit you at the end of the year, it means that you're 5 steps ahead, because there's so many people who don't realize that can be a thing. And then come the spring when normal people all do their taxes, all of a sudden you're like, wait, I owe how much? Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially if your state is like a sales and use tax state. And I'm not going to go into all that. We don't have to. It stresses me out. Like, not really, because I understand it now, but before I used to all the time. So I still have that mentality a little bit. But
okay, so you mentioned last year you switched to full-time.
Right, yeah.
Was that has happened to some people because of COVID? That has happened voluntarily? What was that transition like for you?
It was both, honestly. Okay. I was working at the time as a teacher's assistant for kindergarten, and I was actually offered a job June whenever they were ending the school year and preparing for the next school year. So I had just finished out being a TA, and I was offered a job as a kindergarten teacher, and they would help me get certified and all this stuff. But I turned it down because I just really felt like it was the right time to pursue pottery full time. At that moment, it was back in June, I maybe had, 2,000 followers, maybe 2,500, like something where like abouts. I sold out of like maybe 2 collections prior. It was definitely a risk. And I just had this mindset of, I will succeed. I will not fail. I am going to pursue this because it's my passion and because it's something I've always gone back to, and I just believe I can. And I just went in with that like guns blazing mentality. I was going to do it and do it big and do it well. And hopefully I'm still in business and I'm paying for my rent. So.
We're still here, right? Your roommate does not hate you.
No, she does not.
So what does reality look like as far as, there's so many questions, but first off, since we're joking about roommates, are you making at home? Are you working out of a studio? Are you renting a place? What's that part of it look like?
Yeah, so I am working at home. I work out of my garage, which is like 4 floors below me. So I just walk downstairs, which is nice, but it's hard to like carry things and transport heavy things. So I work there, and then I do not own my own kiln. So I go and use other studios for that. And it's cool because I get to connect with people there. And one of the studios that I go to is also a supplier. So I get to buy like glazes there and not worry about shipping costs and things. So that's really nice. And supporting other small businesses. So it's great.
Yep. I cannot go past that without recognizing the stress level of so you're transporting bone dry work in a car from home to, how far away is your studio?
It used to be an hour and 20 minutes.
No. Yeah. Before it was BIST, you were transporting pieces. Yeah. How much stuff got broken?
I wish I was lying to you. I also put in my stuff so haphazardly. Like, if there are other ceramicists listening to this, you're going to be so upset with me. I literally just stacked them. I'll show you. I'll try my best to like describe it out loud. Like, I have 2 mugs here. And so I would put like their bodies together, and then they're like handles like this.
Oh my gosh.
On the gaping parts. That makes sense. And then so line them all up like that.
The widest part of the bodies where all the pressure would be, where it would be likely to crack.
I honestly, like, my like success rate wasn't that bad. It would mostly happen between, like, also I would drive like a grandma. Respect to all the grandmas out there. But I would drive very slow. And yeah, I was very cautious. But I would a lot of times break pieces loading them, or like I would load them in my garage and bump something really fast and break a handle off, which was super sad. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It was just the drive. The drive was long and...
Oh my gosh. When you're going to take these pieces to the studios, is that then like a shared firing where their schedule, you're at the mercy of their schedule and however many of your pieces they can fit in, or do you get to use an entire kiln for yourself?
So whenever I was driving an hour and 20 minutes, what I really loved was it was at the time way like super, super cheap. It was like crazy, like $35 for a full bisque. I could use the whole kiln. So I could fit like 120 pieces in there. And my car gets good gas. So it was just like, the only thing that sucked was like I was adding miles to my car, and losing a little bit of working time. But now I fire at a like shared studio space, which can get a little more complicated, which does unfortunately raise my lower my like success rate on pieces. I just fired a few, and of the 27 or something, like I lost 2 of them, which was a bummer. Also, it's just a different kiln. Like they fire hotter, and I had to get used to that. And I do a lot of drippy pieces, so sadly.
This is the thing that nobody realizes from a ceramic standpoint is like, you don't just have to have the skill of being able to make a piece, whether that be hand built or on the wheel, but then you also have to have this like chemistry knowledge of just basic chemistry knowledge of firing if you're buying glazes, let alone making your own glazes, let alone there's so many different levels of things, I feel like.
Oh my word, so many. It's like just doesn't end at being able to like throw well on the wheel, unfortunately. Because then there's cracking that can happen, or S-cracks or whatever. And then, like you said, the whole glazing chemistry and so much that can happen in between. And then marketing and promoting your work so it actually sells. Like, there's so much.
Right. Each of those are a professional skill set unto itself. If you were like working at a production studio, you might only be a trimmer and only trim pots, and that's it. Versus only throwing, or versus only glazing. And then...
yeah, a little bit of everything. You basically become a super well-rounded human.
Hopefully.
After, I hope so, yeah. If not, you learn, whatever. There's a big learning curve. I feel like, though, if you spend all this time making good quality work and then janking it up on the glaze, it's such a bummer. Like, it's such a bummer. And so you want to learn fast and quick so you don't lose stuff. At least my brain. I'm like, other than that kiln, and I'm also getting used to their firing temperature, I barely lost stuff. It was so nice, like being at the other studio. I would fire like 80 pieces, and maybe 2 or 3 of them didn't turn out how I wanted them, or have a little bubbling or some sort of issue. But if you want to sell stuff, if you want to sell your work and sell a lot, then you got to figure it out fast, and what works and what doesn't work, and then move on. Like, pivot fast. Don't be attached to anything too long.
Ceramics is totally a lesson in detachment.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The guy felt so bad that my stuff stuck because I had stilts for him, but he didn't see the stilts or whatever. Anyways, he felt so bad that one of my pieces or 2 of them were like on the kiln. Like, he's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Just throw them away. And he was like, but they're so nice. But he was like, oh no, just throw them away. Like, I don't care. And he was like, okay. And like tossed them. And he was like, I hate that sound. I'm like, I'm used to that sound.
Right. Actually save them for a really stressful day and then throw them against the wall. Yes. And it feels great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
I love it. Well, speaking of selling your work, you mentioned when you decided to go full-time, obviously it's a risk and a leap, but you were getting some traction, selling out. And I've always been curious around what that process is like, and also the reality is, because this is what I think is so hard for people looking to get started now. You see somebody on Instagram posting about their shop updates, posting about, oh my gosh, we sold out, thank you so much. And I have no idea if that is 30 pieces that sold out or 300 pieces that sold out. And that's a really big difference as far as viability of somebody like you who is doing this on their own, making a living at it. And I don't know, we haven't dug into like personal side yet as far as other support systems and stuff like that. But like, that's a completely different reality than the person who maybe only, when they say they sold out from their shop, which is telling other ceramicists, hey, there's a market out there, you can do this, go for it. But maybe their sellout was 15 pieces because this is a hobby that they don't have to make a bunch of money at.
Yeah, exactly.
How big are your shop updates usually?
So I'm going to try to do bigger ones, like between 75 and 100, like once a month. I was doing basically that split into 2, like once a month, so like every 2 weeks a shop update. But that low-key was killing me because it's just, wow, I just shot all these photos, posted all this stuff on my website, just shipped everything, packed and shipped everything. And now I have to do it again in a week and a half because that took me the half of a week to finish or to work on. And it was just really hard for me mentally because I really wasn't getting a lot of time like to actually make work. So that was really frustrating. So to answer your question, I would love to do 100 pieces, 75 to 100 pieces every restock from now on. That's what I was doing like per month, give or take. And I know you were talking about selling out. And I will say there have been many times, even more recently with the following, like a better following that I have, more loyal following that I have now. It's okay if you don't sell out. Like I haven't always sold out. And just because you don't sell out doesn't mean you're not successful. If you hit your financial margins that you need to make for paying your bills or buying your groceries or whatever this is for you, whether it's a side hustle or your full-time gig, if you sell 80% of your work, that's so successful and you're able to pay for all these things. That's amazing. That's incredible. Like being able to sell out is in of itself like a gift. Even if you have 13 items, $100 each, or 100 items at $40 each, whatever it is for you. Selling out or not, it's so frustrating because I get messages a lot from people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for selling out. Like one day I hope I can too. And I have to message them back and be like, it's not about that. It's not about selling out. Like it's cool. And I like to be like, thank you guys. Thank you for making this possible. But it's really not about all that. And I think that I'm probably going to stop being like, like I just sold out and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here.
Right. No, we should all celebrate our wins.
Yeah,
more.
Absolutely. But I also think it's important for the community or the generation right behind us to see that selling out isn't everything. And it's okay if they don't. As long as they meet, like I said, their financial goals, and that's at the end of the day, all that really matters. And they're able to support themselves in their side hustle or their full-time gig or whatever it may be.
I actually am also curious about, it's obvious if something sells out, it's obvious that then the shop is closed and you go back to making. But if you don't sell out, do you still only keep your shop open for a certain amount of time so that you can batch your time in terms of making and dealing with packaging and shipping and all of that? Or will you just keep it open so people can buy stuff whenever?
I will generally close it if it doesn't all sell. Like let's say I have 4 or 5 pieces or whatever it is, just as an example, I'll just hold on to those. And because just seeing statistics and things on my personal website, the traction that happens when I first promote that and when I first open it is infinitely better. Like the amount of people who see that work and the odds of it actually selling then are much higher than they would be if I left it open 2 or 3 days after. So I'll usually keep it open for like maybe 3 or 4 days and then close shop. And also what you're saying, if I'm in the middle of production after all of that, or I would be like in the middle of shipping, and then I see this random order after I just sent everything out and started working on my next task, then I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. That's great. That's awesome. But at the same time, like I already met my goal and now I have to go back and do this other step. And that takes a lot of time. I don't know about you, but like shipping for me takes forever and I really despise it. Like I would love to outsource that. And it's not even that hard. It's just time consuming.
And when you are the only employee and you're the CEO and the employee and the front of house and the back of house and everything, like your time is your most valuable thing. You can't have another shop update unless you have the time to make things. And if you're spending all of your time dealing with printing shipping labels, then, and this is some of the stuff that I think people forget to account for when you are trying to go full-time or you have gone full-time and you're making a living off of this, accounting for how much time it takes you to do all of that has to go also into the pricing. Because otherwise, it can't just be the price of the clay or the price of your time to throw. Because then you've got to trim, you've got to fire, you've got to glaze, you've got to pack, you've got to ship, you've got to answer emails. All of that stuff goes into it.
Yeah, there's so many behind the scenes things that I think a lot of people just aren't aware of when they first start. I didn't know about like 80% of this when I first started and when I committed to being like full-time basically. I was like, oh yeah, like it'll be, if this is this is everything that I do full-time, like 40 hours a week, whatever, more than that, then I'll be fine. Like I'll be able to manage, but it's hard. It's hard work. Like I wish it was super easy like I thought it was. Back when I was a young, naive girl. Just kidding. That was like a couple months ago.
I was just going to say yes, because you're so old now. I'm pretty sure. I'm not even going to ask you that question because it's just going to make me feel real old. But
we don't have to talk about age here.
Nope, we're not going to. But that was actually going to be my next question is what is different I mean, you're going to be coming up on a year, basically, of your first year full time, yeah?
Right, yeah. So exciting.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. What is different than you expected it to be? What surprised you?
I'll start with the bad and then I'll end on high. I feel like that's what we should do.
I like the optimistic route.
Yes, going up, never down. Yeah, I feel like what surprised me most was, I guess, I'm a workaholic in nature, like just by nature. I don't know if you've done like the Enneagram or whatever, but I'm a 3. So I like go and I perform and I'm on it. And if I did not have boundaries, I would just work every day, all day, if I could. I've always been that way. So I think for me, it got really ugly, probably, I want to say almost early in January when I was taking time off because I was experiencing like a lot of burnout. I didn't realize the push and the pull. And I just come off of my like first year. And like I was saying, I was doing shop updates every 2 weeks and just pushing through and not saying, oh, wow, like I feel tired. Maybe I should take my whole Saturday off, or like just literally unplug and not even think about things. Don't even write notes, like just enjoy my day. And it was so hard. Like I couldn't. And I know other people out there who are pretty similar, but it was so like I just couldn't unplug, not even when I had time off. Like I would still. So I have a boyfriend and he lives like 4 hours away. So I would go travel and visit him. And then when I got there, I would just tell him all my new ideas from my trip. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to try this and maybe this will work. And he'd be like, okay, stop. And sometimes I would literally bring pottery 4 hours. That was greenware. I would go there, attach handles, and then drive it all. No, I'm not even kidding. You can ask him. Like, I'm such a workaholic, and that was supposed to be like time spent together, you know? And so like, I would just sit at his dining room table, attaching handles while he was like hanging out, like with his roommate or whatever. I did not take a lot of time. So unfortunately, that kind of resulted in some like pretty bad burnout. I had to take a couple weeks off, which I think is good. I'm still learning how to balance like rest, and sometimes you just got to push. Sometimes you have to do it, but I'm still learning a lot about balancing that. So that was pretty ugly for me. And I had a couple of like mental breakdowns during the holidays. Like I'm sure a lot of us did. I was like, I don't know how this is possible. I'm not going to get it done. People aren't going to get their items, blah, blah, blah. But it happened. But yeah, I feel like I wasn't ready for all of the mental health aspects of being a full-time ceramicist and taking care of yourself mentally and physically, emotionally. I just was like not doing that at all and putting my business in front of myself, which is the opposite of what I should be doing. I should always put myself before my business because I am my business. If I'm not taking care of myself, then my business is failing. So I'm learning that, still learning.
Keep put that on the mirror every day, because I think
I know I really should. I have a mirror in my room. I definitely should.
Right? Because I'm 10 years in and still working on figuring that out.
Ugh, aren't we all? I don't think we'll ever make it, but I'm okay with that too. I still think it's a good practice for sure.
And it's also like on the positive side of that, it's really hard to turn off when you're excited about it. When you're like, the thing that I love about being an entrepreneur is that I do use 110% of my brain every day, that you're learning new things all the time, that you're not just in one job role. But then at the same time, that's what makes it overwhelming, and that's what you realize, oh, instead of working 40 hours for one person, for somebody else, where I like clock out at 5 and I'm done, I'm working 70 hours for myself. That's, wait a second.
Right. And like you said, it's good and bad. It's exciting and you're passionate about it. And that's definitely what I feel like that first chunk of when I went full time. So from like June until, I don't know, I feel like I started to feel a little bit of stress in November. So like that big chunk of time was great. I felt so good. And I was working so much, too much, but I felt good. And so I just kept going. And then November and December, I started to feel a little anxious, but I still pushed through, and then down I went. But I'm good. For anybody listening, like I'm in a very good, positive, healthy state right now. Do not worry about
Mom.
Me. Yes.
Mom, I'm okay.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm good. I just needed that break. Like I think we all do.
Well, and that's also the case with a lot of pottery is not quite as seasonal as my experience in the wedding photography world, but there is definitely still some seasonality, especially like with that holiday push. Like I don't know what the alternative solution is to long days in early December when any retail store, let alone makers, businesses, are doing a massive amount of their annual revenue in a 3-week span.
Yeah, literally the only solution is to just like plan ahead and make more sooner. But it's really hard for me to do that because I rely on a kiln. Like if maybe I had my own kiln, then watch out world, like I would be making so much. But I'm a little bit restricted, and I'm not saying that as an excuse. And also I know that there are potters who have their own kilns, and like it's overwhelming for everybody.
You just set new goals for yourself. If you have your own kiln, your goal's just going to change.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly. But yeah, I feel like everybody definitely feels the stress because it is more, because the odds of you selling more in December are much higher because people are buying gifts and they're excited and they like their fun things and they're handmade and it's just like very unique. So you're going to be making more to get the most out of your, time. And so that alone, like balancing all of these products and then shipping and packing all these products, making sure they're all delivered, like that in itself is stressful enough, especially if you're doing like 2 times what you usually do or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
the bad.
I appreciate the honesty because, for one, anybody thinking about going into this, I think it's really important to have a realistic view. But for 2, for our audiences of people who are purchasing from us, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I first started, people would jokingly be like, "Oh, you're your own boss. You get to set your own schedule. So, like, are you going to the beach on Tuesdays or whatever?" And it's, no, actually, I work 12 hours a day.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that kind of... Online, we post all the best versions of the life. Mm-hmm. We post that one Tuesday we took off and went to the park to read a book at 2:00 in the afternoon, but that happened once out of every 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
But we post about it so everybody thinks that we just have such a super relaxed life, like not a care in the world.
Yeah, like easy breezy, beautiful business, like nothing going wrong here. Meanwhile, in the background, we're like
crying
scrambling,
in the corner,
clay all over our face. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so on the upside then.
Yes, on the upside, I really have enjoyed this year, and I've been a lot more, what's the word I'm trying to go for? A lot more, I guess, understanding and patient. I've been very patient with myself this year in finding my voice, like my unique voice in the pottery world, because I feel like a lot has been done. There are only so many ways to make a mug, but I think that I'm really starting to grow into what Upper Call is, which is super exciting for me. I have like lots of, new ideas during my like little time off that I'm so excited to get going on and then keep. I think these will be really awesome staples that I'll always have. And it's just cool to be able to to not only make beautiful work that you're proud of, but work that speaks for you and is basically an extension of you. It's just really beautiful and unique. And there aren't many jobs where you can do that and be so well represented in what you make, like a physical product. It's just really beautiful. And I'm enjoying that process a lot, especially this past year. It's been slow because I feel like I've played with a lot of different ideas and whatever. And that kind of is a little stressful for me because I'm like, who am I? It's like the question we're all wondering. Who are we? What is our voice in this world? And I figured out I'm a potter, but now what? Mm-hmm. So I feel like this year has been really fun for me. So yeah, that's been a huge, really cool thing.
I'm curious because I think I'm still very much on that. So I'm only, 3 years into delving back into clay, and that's been a very part-time hobby, get me away from the computer and back into a messy art kind of thing. So photography is still very much the full time. And so I know what my style is there, but I'm back in that journey again with ceramics. So I'm curious, what do you feel like? Were there certain things you were doing to explore what that style and that voice is? Or was it kind of a gradual, what was that like to, now that you feel confident in saying, okay, this is me, this is exuding who I am, how did you come to that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. If you look at my old work on Instagram, you can see I played with a lot of different styles and techniques, a lot of different types of glazes, a lot of really different things from what I'm doing now, if you look back at my work. And I like to keep that up as a reminder. It's like you got to start and play and experiment to find not only what you like, but what other people enjoy too, and what brings other people happiness. And like as a kid, I just came back to things that made me smile because I enjoyed making them. They make me happy to make them. And I want to have a job that makes me happy. So it's like combine those things and you're good. So I just found colors and shapes that I really loved, and that made me happy. I love the drip stuff that I've been doing with the bright colors, and that brings me a lot of joy. Like I would want pieces like that too. That's another good indicator, like that are unique and conversational and bright. And then I just really love like stars and rainbows and smiley faces. And so I'm going to be incorporating like a lot more of that into my work this year. So just things that bring me a lot of joy and happiness. And I feel like, yeah, a lot of experimenting, a lot of talking to other makers too. I feel like there's a totally tapped in community. If you're in it, you know it. But if you're not, it's like totally untapped, like resource and potential to learn more about glazes or clays and ask questions. That's great too. Of course, respectfully, don't steal all their tricks and tips and whatever, but whatever they feel like sharing with you, it's totally fine to ask. I think it's a safe space. So yeah.
I'm curious just for myself, but also for everybody else, because part of the reason I started this podcast was in searching for that community, in finding those conversations, because I found a couple of groups on Facebook, but it was a lot of posting a picture of, hey, here's what I did.
Yeah.
And then some really helpful conversations would grow from some of those posts, because somebody might post, like you said, an interesting glaze, and somebody said, oh, how did you do that? And then there's a whole conversation. But some of it wasn't intentional dialogue. It wasn't always that learning curve that I think, personally, at least in my adult life, you crave when you leave like that undergrad, the secret world. No, like when you leave a traditional structured education space, but you're still trying to learn and pursue new things, there's not always those spaces to have those life-giving conversations. So have there been places that you're finding that have been so helpful with that for you?
Yeah, honestly, Instagram has been huge for me. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook because, like you said, it's a lot of quick conversations or posts about a particular glaze or like, ooh, look what I did. And then people like comment about it, which is great. That's totally fine. That's just not really my scene. And it's not like authentic and deep community that I think we're all looking for. So yeah, I think it just started with me being really like open. So you know Logan, but I reached out to her, like I started following her. I messaged her and was like, oh my gosh, your work is so wonderful and beautiful. And we started a conversation there. And then I just kept doing that with people, which is like weird. But I feel like if you're vulnerable and you create the place that you want to see or have like with another person, and you're just like, wow, your work is gorgeous, keep doing what you're doing, or not even a compliment if you want, just be like, hey, how are you? I love your work. Like, I think everybody right now, especially being in COVID still, like everybody is craving that sort of communication and like people in general. And Instagram for me isn't like the best place to make it all happen. Like I will call people too and chat with them as well. But I feel like it's a good start. It's definitely a good start. And just being vulnerable. And even if you're posting stories like of you chatting about your life or, oh, here are some tips or whatever it may be on your story, ease into that. I get it. That could be uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I feel like if you're open to that, then people will definitely respond positively and reach out to you. Like I've had a lot of people like reach out to me, and then friendships have grown like via message, which is so cool, from like around the world. I'm really good friends with this girl named Anna who lives in Canada because she likes ceramics, and we started chatting and we FaceTimed the other day. It's like beautiful, like the way friendships can work. Yeah, it's so exciting.
That's like the positive version of the internet.
Oh yeah, it's like, negative, but
well,
yeah.
And also, meanwhile, we were talking before we hit record around like trying to limit our phone time and like getting off screens. But then the flip side of that coin are these really beautiful, I mean, the way you and I connected was over Instagram. That's how this entire conversation happened.
Yeah, there's good and bad for everything, basically.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
This is life.
Yep.
Now the Maker's Playbook podcast is now going to become like a what is the meaning of life deep dive conversation.
Basically, yeah.
We started with who am I and who am I in this world, and now we're on to like, we skipped the what is art question, but we're going to go to...
We'll get there. But now we're like, there's good and bad and everything in this world. Pick the lesser of two evils.
Oh, gosh.
No, not that deep. Not that deep.
Right. Dante's
oh my gosh,
7 levels.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right. I think it is also just such a unique place that you're in, that you're coming up on the 1 year, so everything is so fresh. So is there anything after this first year that you wish you would have either known beforehand or done differently?
Oh man, so many things. Which I feel like a lot of people coming out of their first year would feel the same way. I think probably my biggest takeaway of this year, and I definitely will continue to practice into my second year, but just stick up for yourself. Like, I work a lot with community studios, and I do so much communication online with buyers or people who are interested in my work. But my work, like I said before, it represents me. And like, I am representing me. And so I think having really good boundaries, like what we talked about earlier with social media, is so important. Boundaries in general, what you will agree to, what you won't agree to, setting that really clear in the beginning so you're not having any questions like with custom orders or something like that. Just being really clear about pricing and everything, and being extremely clear about what you want and what you need. I don't think people are direct enough anymore. I feel like I know I water stuff down, or I apologize for things that like aren't really my fault. It's not my fault that your item isn't there yet. I shouldn't have to apologize.
The underfunding of the United States Postal Service was no seller's fault, actually.
Yes, nobody's fault. And so I think that it's fair to just be real with people sometimes and say, hey, this is how it is. This is how I run my business. If you're not happy with that, I'm not changing it. So you can find whatever you're looking for someplace else. I feel like I can sometimes just be too nice. Like, I come off really direct right now because it's a conversation between two friends, so it's like easier. But I feel like a more professional, quote unquote,
I've actually never seen you that strong. I don't want to say that strong because you're an independent woman, but like, I've never seen you that riled up about something, because all your stories and stuff are so happy. Like, they are that joy that you're putting into your pots. So they're very,
Yes, but I feel, of course, like we talked about, we want to show like the good stuff in pottery, and I want my brand to be happy and stuff, but I feel like it's okay. I wish I could say this to myself back in June. It's okay to stick up for yourself and have boundaries. Like, boundaries are so good. And boundaries, as I say boundaries, saying exactly what you want to somebody. Like, I work a lot with people and firing my pots, and there was multiple times where there've been like things that have gone wrong with prices where they didn't quite align, and I didn't stick up for myself and I lost money. Also, not pricing my work well, like in the beginning, which I feel like so many people do because they're just trying to like sell their work. But I have had conversations with some friends who love and care about me who are like, you need to price your work better. You have to do this for yourself. And so that has been so good. I wish I could have had that conversation with myself earlier too. Pricing yourself well means that you know you have good quality work. You respect yourself in the work that you're giving out into the world, which are both great things. And you're also able to pay for things that you need. And there's nothing wrong with money and having that money, because money gives you freedom. And if you have an issue with that, then it's your mentality and your associations with money. And that's something that only you can figure out and work through. And that's something I'm definitely working on as well. But I feel like having that conversation earlier with myself, all about pricing, would have saved me a lot of heartache and time and effort and energy and all of that too. But again, I'm just coming out of my first year, basically, very close. And I'm learning all of that now. And definitely in hindsight, seeing it now and not 5 years from now, which is good. So
there it is. You took the words out of my mouth. Because also, if you were working for somebody else, there would be built-in systems for getting a raise, for example. If you're not comfortable gradually raising the prices on your work as the demand increases, as the quality increases, as your life needs or wants even, dare we use the word want when it comes in terms of money, right?
We will. We want things.
Right? And that is okay. Like you said, that is okay, because if you were working for somebody else at the end of the year or at every quarter, you would have a review with your supervising boss or whoever, and there would be these systems if you were working in an office that like you'd get a whatever percentage raise because you had done a good job and you were improving at the job and you were bringing value to the company, and then you'd get a raise. And that's not, we have to be okay with giving ourselves that, which is a whole nother conversation we don't have enough time for now around self-worth and value, and like you said, mindset around money and not thinking of money as evil and all of these things. So, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that's a perfect place. We just touched the top of the iceberg on a huge conversation, so I think we're going to have to follow up, but I think that's the perfect place to leave everybody to say, like, makers deserve not only to survive at doing what we love, but also to thrive.
Yes. 100%, 150%. There are people out there doing exactly that. And there's no reason why you're not able to do the exact same thing. Like, you totally are worth it if your work is good and beautiful and you love and respect yourself and all that stuff. Like, you are as able as anyone else in the world is to make money and be successful and thrive and love what you do. Why not? You have one life.
A vacation day every once in a while.
Yes. Take a big vacation, like a whole week, actually.
Before you burn out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Please.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Rachel. Where should everybody get more of this joy online and follow you and your work and what you're up to?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. You can follow me on Upper Call on Instagram. So it's at upper_call. And feel free to reach out to me there. You can always send me an email or a DM to chat or talk, and I would love to hear from you guys.
That wraps up episode 113 of the Maker's Playbook. The last couple of episodes now, I've chatted with makers about the easy slip into overwhelm and importance of mental health in running our own businesses. If you've ever felt overwhelmed yourself with the constant demand of decisions to be made in your own business, whether it's a full-time business or a side hustle, be sure to download my free PDF, The Savvy Owner's Quick Guide to Smart Decisions. This PDF will give you my personal guardrails for when I ask my own colleagues their opinions. The checklist included in the guide will help you in asking smarter questions, leading you to better decisions, specifically for the unique needs of your business and your life. Download it for free at makers-playbook.com/guardrails. Or just click the link in the show notes after you wipe all that mud off your hands. Thank you so much for all of your continued support of this little slice of the podcast world. Your emails and messages on Instagram continue to be these wonderful surprises to my days. If you want to be sure to never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast listening app, or simply click the link in the show notes and I'll send you an email anytime a new episode is out. Until next week, go get back to making your dreams a reality. Together, we've got this.